Okay, so this is part two in Chasing Nick Fuentes. Now, I've talked a little bit about his ideology, the way he stitches his ideas together. And, if anything, he seems to grab onto things that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Charged, you might say, emotionally charged language that gets people's reactions. He would be like, quote, a young Archie Bunker, might be another way to think about it. But the thing that I find odd is I listen to him and I keep trying to understand him and I'm reading other people's analysis of him, both good and bad, is that, well, here's my impression. If there's such a thing as karma, okay, or reincarnation, I'm thinking he was a reclusive Italian monk somewhere in the hills of the Italian Alps. He just comes across as someone who doesn't like physical contact. He's an incel. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He um, just it doesn't look like he's ever fallen in love. It doesn't look like he has really exposed himself emotionally. Everything that he does is couched in ideology, and it's an ideology that doesn't leave much room for sitting down and, dare I say it, getting drunk and having a good time with each other. I don't even think he goes there. So, in another sense, he's like a troubled young man. There was a painting, I think, for the French Revolution that shows a young man in the crowd with his finger up, and the caption is "Liberté, égalité, liberty and justice." No, justice. So liberté and justice. So liberty and justice, liberty and justice. And then the other person says, "Make up your mind. You can't have both." And so I think that Mr. Fuentes might find himself in a similar position when we go through all the different parts of the things that he is espousing. Yes, that's right. I don't think I'll get into it later, but I don't think they're entirely consistent. So I have some really weird questions. Mr. Fuentes, do you do your own laundry? Do you clean your own room? Do you drive your own car? How do you earn your money? Do you do your own tax returns? There's just seems like when you start to look at his personal life, I mean his own day-to-day existence, I'm going to say it. I don't think there's much there because he's so he's so taken up in these bigger issues that he in fact doesn't really see. Maybe there's a different story. Maybe he doesn't like to talk about it. Maybe he's that private. Who knows? But we're certainly not seeing any evidence that suggests that um, they knows how to party. He knows how to quote let his hair down. As a young man, he's out to save the world, and that's all he can think about. So maybe we'll hear something slightly different under other circumstances, and especially as I poke into this more, we'll find some answers. But right now, it just seems that he's totally taken up with the idea of being this alt-right personality who is the standard bearer for what some consider extreme right-wing views. Yeah, I'm not sure I would want to ascribe right-wing to some of these things. Yeah, I think it's white nationalism that might be at the center of what's driving him. But even then, I'm not sure that's the right term. Okay. It's easy to point to things in society that you can criticize, and that's what he wants to do. But no, again, like I said in the first video, I'm not seeing a whole lot of consistency and coherence in his ideas and how they relate to each other. It's just somebody sitting in the corner just fuming about all the different things that they see wrong with the world and what you think would be right. I'm not so sure it makes the world so right. It's self-satisfying as far as I'm concerned. So this thing about him being an incel, I thought it was very interesting that he said that he finds the idea of sex with a woman to be filthy. So I'm looking at that and say, yeah, not a whole lot of life experience there. What happened to you in college, dude, or high school? You know, So, and that, this begins to take on what I call a monk-like quality. So there's something about him that, well, I'm going to say it kind of falls into a narrow range, and you know, he becomes the loud voice for what are some important points. And so let me just dwell on the other thing. Of course, the thing that got people's attention here, which is going after people who would call themselves Israel first. Okay, so he too has been banging the drum that another one of his center points, America first. Okay, sounds nice. I think he's also attacked Matt Walsh, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And he doesn't like Steve Bannon either. And that really doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And this is another point, is that for him to have these punk-like attitudes towards other people who are, thought leaders and have done important things as far as conservatism is concerned in the nation, I don't know. This is the kind of stuff which is taking cheap shots because he's trying to make a name for himself. From a young person, well, frankly, this is to be expected. So I'm on this. I'm not surprised. And again, I come back to the same point I keep raising over and over again. He's young, he's immature, and he is very, very incomplete. And that incompleteness is reflected both in his thinking and in what seem to be a lot of holes in his personal relationships, if there are any at all. So it'll be interesting to see if he ever. I don't think he's ever been asked about it. No, I don't know. So yeah, what do you do when the cameras are off? What do you do? It just, yeah, I'd like to know. Anyway, so that's part of my second part on chasing Nick Fuentes. I'm going to be pulling other things together because I've given what I think is a reasonable description of him, but I'm still not satisfied with how I've characterized him. I don't feel like I've captured the whole person. Um, it's just that I see these areas that are, like I said, incomplete. Anyway, hopefully you'll be back for more, and I'll have more data. Right. Bye.